So the last part we're going to look at today is odd and even numbers. Okay, even and odd numbers. What are even numbers? They are numbers that form pairs when they are shared into two parts. Numbers that form pairs when they are shared into two parts. What does pair mean? Pair means two that are the same. Two parts, two things that are exactly the same. Like you can say you have a pair of feet. Because you have feet, the left is exactly the same as your right. I have a pair of shoes. The left leg is exactly like the right. So when you say pairs, pairs always refers to two things that are exactly the same. So when you share even numbers into two parts, you always come up with two equal parts. But it is not the same thing with odd numbers. Odd numbers do not form pairs, but they always have remainders. When you try to share odd numbers into two parts, you always end up with something left that cannot be shared. So there is always a remainder. So those numbers are called odd numbers. Even numbers form pairs, odd numbers do not, but always have remainder. Now this chart, I left it so that we could use it to explore this concept of even and odd numbers. So let's quickly look at the pattern that has been formed, and that's the main reason I left this chart on. If you look at the column of 1, all the numbers under this one, you see the numbers in this column, they all end in 1. All the numbers in this column end in 1. All the numbers in this column of 2, they end in 2. All the numbers in this column of 3, they end in 3. All the numbers in this column of 4, they end in 4. All the way down, all the numbers in the column of 10 end in 0. Now, here is what I will quickly point out. We're not going to spend too much time on this. It's actually going to give you something to work on, okay? And you're going to have fun doing it. Now, look at it. If you have one orange, I want to get this off so that we have a little space to work on. You can always go back to the video when you get to this point. You pause it if you need to write something down. Okay, so let's say we have one orange and we need to share that orange for these two fellows. One person will get one, the other person will be left with nothing. We can't get two pairs from this. We can't get two equal parts of the orange of the orange for them. Yeah, someone will say, yeah, but you can share the orange into halves. You can share the orange into two equal halves. Yes, you're smart and I totally agree with you. But remember that in this, in what we are exploring right now, we are not looking at fractions. We are not looking at anything that is part of a whole. We are looking at whole numbers. We're not looking at fractions. We're not looking at decimals. We are looking at whole numbers, okay? So 1 is an odd number because there will always be something that is off. You can't get two equal parts when you share an odd number into two parts. So 1 is an example of an odd number. And if you check 2, let's go to 2. Let's check 2 before I go to something else. Let's share these two oranges for these two fellas. So this first guy takes 1, the second one takes 1. Each of them has something. And do you think they have the same quantity of oranges? They do. The first person here has 1 orange, and the other guy also has 1 orange. So you see there is a pair here. Remember we said pair means two things that are exactly the same. So he gets 1 orange, the other person gets 1 orange. So 2, for instance, is an even number. 2 is an even number. Let's try to work with 3 oranges. I hope we can see the board. So let's try to work with 3 oranges. We have seen that we can't share 1 orange, okay, among 2 people. Now let's look at 3 oranges. We have 1, 2, 3. We're still sharing them for these 2 stick men. Okay, sharing them for these 2 stick men. So the first guy takes 1 orange, the second guy takes 1 orange, And there's one more orange left. And like we mentioned earlier, we can't share that one between these two people because that's going to lead us to fraction. It's going to lead us to fraction, and we are not dealing with fraction. So here again, we find that we have something that is left, a remainder. We have a remainder. And remember, we said that odd numbers are those numbers that when you share them into two parts, there is always what? A remainder. So that means that 3 is an odd number. I hope we're following. We have agreed that 1 is an odd number, 3 is an odd number, and then we've been able to explain or look into 2 as an even number. Okay, so we used 2 oranges, we shared it among these 2 people, and we found out that they both got equal amount. Now let's look at the next number, which is 4, and let's see, still 4 oranges for these 2 stick men. Let's see how it goes with them. So this one gets 1 orange, this one gets 1 orange. This one gets a second orange, this one gets a second orange. Everything is gone. So we find out that the 2 stick men, each of them has 2 oranges. Each stick man has 2 oranges. So here again we see a picture of a pair. A pair, remember, is 2 things that are exactly the same. So that means that 4, just like 2, is an even number. 4, just like 2, is an even number. Are we seeing a pattern building already? Can we see a pattern is building? Now let's check the last set of numbers, 5 and 6, and let's see. So let's look at 5. Again, we have 5 oranges, and we need to share them among 2 people. So you have 5 and you have the 2 stick men as usual. So the first guy gets 1, the second one gets 1. The first guy gets 2, the second guy gets 2. And then we have 1 left, and we can give that 1 to both of them. Remember, we can't split that one. We can share it into halves. It's not possible when we're dealing with whole numbers. So here again, we find a remainder. So that means 5 is an odd number. And the last number we're looking at is 6. So here we're going to share 6 oranges among these 2 guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we have 2 stick men as usual. So the first guy gets 1, the second gets 1. The first guy gets 1, the second gets 1. The first guy gets 1, the second gets 1. Everything is gone. Now let's see, does each of them have the same amount of oranges as the other? 1, 2, 3, the first guy, the second guy, 1, 2, 3. Wow, they have exactly the same thing. So here again we see pair. You know, remember we said the pair is the same, 2 parts being the same. We have the 2 guys having exactly the same number of oranges, so which means that 6 is an even number. So here we have been able to show that 1 is odd. Yeah, we start with 1. 3 is odd, and 5 is odd. Have we seen the pattern already? Now let's go to our chart. Okay, let's come back to our chart. 1, we have established that 1 is an odd number, 2 is even. I'll just write on the, okay? So we use O to represent odd and E to represent even. So 1 is odd, we have seen how it is. 2 is even, we have seen how that works. 3 is odd, 4 is even, 5 is odd, 6 is even. So you see the way it's going. Every consecutive number is just like the other one. So 1 is 0, 2 is even, 3 is 0, 4 is even, 5 is 0, 6 is even, 7 is what? Odd. 8 is what? Even, because it's a pattern. 9 is what? Odd, and 10 is even. Okay, so now for 10, mind you, is a number. 10 represents all the numbers that end in 0. Okay, 10 represents all the numbers that end in 0. We're going to get to that. Okay, so what I want us to see now is the pattern. 1 odd, 1 even, 1 odd, 1 even, 1 odd. You see the way it goes? So all the numbers under this column of 1, they are odd numbers. 11 is an odd number, 21 is an odd number, 31 is an odd number, 41 is an odd number, 51, 61, 71, 81, they are all odd numbers. Now we found that 2 is an even number. That means all the numbers in this column of 2, they are even numbers. 2 is even, 12 is even, 22 is even, 32 is even, 42 is even. So every number that ends in 2 is an even number. Now we go to the next one, 3. We found out that 3 is an odd number. And that follows for every number in this column. Every number that ends in 3 is an odd number. 4 is an even number, and that goes for every number in this column. 4 is even, and that means all the numbers that end with 4, they are even numbers. Just like that. 5 is odd. All the numbers that end in 5 are odd numbers. 6 is even. All the numbers that end in 6 are even. 7 is odd. All the numbers that end in 7, they are odd. 8 is even. All the numbers that end in 8, they are even. 9 is odd. All the numbers that end in 9, they are odd. And 10 is even, or 0, okay? Numbers that end with 0, they are even. So all the numbers you're seeing here in the column of 10, they are even numbers. Okay, so please, I will really advise that you practice this, okay? Keep going over, keep practicing. You need to keep practicing. You don't just watch this once and then you feel you've understood everything. You need to keep practicing it and keep revising, okay? If you have noted down some important things from this video, you go back and review it. Go back and go through it again so that you have a good understanding of the concept. Okay, so here is what we're going to call it a day. For those of you in grade 2, please, you need to build this chart up to 200. This chart here stops at 100. You need to use the pattern we explored and complete this chart up to 200. Okay? We hope to see you guys next week. If this video is helpful to you, please help us share the link, and we'll see you next week for a continuation of exploration of numbers. Stay blessed and stay safe.